Okay, everybody, here we go. It is me, Gregory Mannarino. It is Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. You can't make this stuff up if you try to. I don't care how hard you try. What am I talking about? So today, yes, as anticipated, we got this inflation number, and just as we discussed right here yesterday, inflation continues to rise, people. It continues to rise, although at a slower pace. And this news right now has the market orgasmic like you can't believe. Stock futures are higher across the board. Dow futures are higher by about 800 points. You can't make this stuff up if you try to. And again, it's no surprise to you or me. Inflation has nowhere to go, people, but higher. Not just higher, but much higher. Food inflation taking off. I mean, imagine my surprise here. They're going to try to starve people and, of course, force them into thirst and famine and higher inflation, and the market is going to get off on it as central banks can continue to fulfill their end game, and that is to destroy the global population, to wipe out an entire class of people, and the market's going to be laughing behind its back. I'm telling you, that's the way it's going to go. But again, turn on CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business. I mean, the commentators are, well, spraying their shorts all over the place. The fact that stock futures are pointing towards a much higher open on the back of this inflation report, yes, inflation continues to rise. How surprised are you? Shocked? Oh, no! Shocked! Really? Oh, no, we're not surprised at all because you and I knew this would happen. It's amazing. Just look at yesterday's video. We outlined it right here. Inflation will continue to rise, but at a slower pace. And the market right now is orgasmic on the fact. This is a fact now, people. I'm telling you. This week, tomorrow, as a matter of fact, the Federal Reserve is going to raise rates, but a 50 basis point hike. I can't imagine in my wildest dreams it's going to be any more than that. Then next month, probably another 50 and then a pause, and the market is going to take off. Right now, what is happening, the market is setting up for a massive year-end rally. Not only are stock futures higher across the board, not only is the US dollar cratering right now, but the 10-year yield is also in a nosedive. The MMRI, Mannarino Market Risk Indicator, again, free to you, free to everybody, link in the description of this video, is going to be markedly lower. So risk is, well, it's plummeting in this market, despite the fact that people continue to be choked and strangled to death. And with this surging out of control inflation, people, and it's got nowhere to go. And I mean nowhere to go but much higher. Do you believe for a nanosecond, again, I love to say that, why? I don't know, that this is going to change anytime soon? Do you think for a nanosecond, yet again, that central banks around the world are not going to continue to inflate the money supply? And I don't care what it may say on a chart anywhere else. Do you really believe that the Federal Reserve's balance sheet is shrinking? Let me ask you, since you are all well aware of this, if you follow this blog here, how do central banks, how does the Federal Reserve keep rates suppressed? Can they just say it? Can they just wave a magic wand? No, they have to get into the market and buy the debt. And of course, as we all know, not just the central banks of the world, but major corporations, they don't have just the public balance sheet. They have another balance sheet that no one's allowed to see. My computer's going nuts here. And that off-balance sheet is hyper-ballooning. So that's where we stand this morning. It's pretty much out of control. Here's a headline for you. Inflation continues to rise, but at a slower pace. 10-year yield nosediving. Bitcoin almost 18,000. I said just yesterday about 17 with all the bears out here. I'm really starting to turn very bullish on cryptocurrencies. I'm telling you, look, You're allowed to have your own opinion here. You don't like cryptos, that's fine. You like the dollar, the biggest Ponzi scheme that has ever been created in the history of the world here. And in order for the system to remain afloat, that Ponzi has to be fueled magically by dollars created out of thin air, added to a digital screen just magically. And all of this, all these bills here that central banks, none more so than the Fed, keep flooding to the world, you don't own a single one of them. Nobody does. They're owned by the issuing central bank, owed back to the issuing central bank, plus interest that they create out of thin air. Imagine a system like that. Well, that's what you have right now. What else is going on? Crude oil, after yesterday's over 3% run higher, it's higher by about 2% right now. Look, with regard to energy, this lull that we've had over the past, let's say, month, it ain't going to last. In no way is this going to last here. Energy prices are going much, much higher, along with food inflation, food insecurity, water shortages. And this is going to building up to a climax, people, that is going to be, frankly, biblical. Prepare yourselves, like I've been telling you, okay? Physically, spiritually, mentally, getting yourself on the right side of this from a financial standpoint here. This market's going much, much higher. Okay, I don't care what you may think. This market is being set up right now to go much higher in the face of where we're going here. You've known this for the longest time. The only reason why we were in a bear market was because of uncertainty as to what the Federal Reserve was going to do. But now we're certain about what they're going to do. The Federal Reserve will undoubtedly start scaling back on their aggressive stance on rate hikes. And as you all know, people, look, how can I say this another way? This whole thing has been the biggest farce, the biggest falsehood, in probably almost in the history of the world, that central banks here, by raising rates, were somehow going to contain inflation. It's not meant to do that. It's meant to control demand. The only way, meaningful way, that we can stop inflation, central banks, if they really wanted to, would be to do what? To do what? You know what I'm going to tell you? Contract the money supply by forcing financial institutions to hold higher capital reserves. About zero here in the United States. Ain't going to happen, because central banks, none more so than the Fed, want to continue to inflate. And honestly, have you heard a word about this on a single mainstream media outlet, how they should be contracting the money supply? No, you've never heard it, and you will never hear this, because again, you must be told to look here, don't look here. If for example, CNBC, Fox Business, Bloomberg were to tell people the truth that, hey, raising rates really isn't the way to control inflation, people would be like stunned and shocked, because that's the narrative that has been sold for, like, I don't know how long, since its inception. I told you from day one, we discussed it right here, that raising rates would not work, and it has not worked. Raising rates, they've been doing this, central banks, for many, many months. And what's happening to inflation? It continues to rise, even by today's numbers that they just put out just about an hour ago. Okay, lovely. But had central banks really wanted to help people, prevent soaring food prices and everything else, well, they would contract the money supply, but they won't do it. And you will never, ever hear this, because it would get people's minds thinking, hold on a second. You mean there's a way to contract the money supply? You mean we could stop inflation in its tracks? Oh, interesting. I wonder why. From any of the mainstream propaganda ministries. People, I dare you to make this stuff up. Anyway, so on the back of that, we are right now very close. Well, this is the December 13th, as I said. This market's setting up for a pretty substantial year-end rally here. And of course, you knew how this was going to play out, because we discussed it here as well several weeks ago. This is how the CEOs and the managing directive board at these major corporations make their year-end bonuses, by year-end share price. multi-million-dollar bonuses will be paid out. Okay, and how they do this is by propping up the markets. And that's exactly what's going on here. Now, what you're going to hear later on today is President Bidenstein, come out praising these numbers. Oh, yes, inflation is not only zero, but it's negative. That's what he's going to tell you. It's obviously a complete lie. Look, the man may be retarded, but he's not so retarded that he can't lie to you. You understand? I think you will get it. Anyway, so enjoy the festivities today. Market at the open, boom. Will people sell into this rally? I'm not really sure. I would probably say no. Why? We got a U.S. dollar relative strength cratering. We got the 10-year yield nosediving, the MMRI falling off a cliff. This tells you and I that this is risk on. It's risk on. Anyway, people, we got this. They can't do a thing to you and I. We are freaking invincible. We are light years ahead of the curve, and I am so happy to say that. All right, look, I am like so out of here. I hope you got something out of this video. Please, if you thought it was interesting at all, hit that thumbs up button. I would greatly appreciate that. Share this stuff. Look, you won't find Greg Mannarino anywhere. Okay, it's all of you that get my work out there. I am not on a single social media network. It's almost unheard of today, where a guy like me, I have no exposure at all. It's all of you guys and girls that get this stuff out there on any social network that you have, and I count on you to do that. Love you a lot from the heart. I mean that. Aloha. I will see all of you at the end of the day.